Today I have Jetbeam's first attempt at a pistol light, the Jet T2. Thanks to Jetbeam for sending this one to me to take a look at. An excuse to go to the range and test a light is always a good excuse. So here is the package that the light comes in. It's a little bit different. It's a clear hanging retail box, and when it's in there you can see the light up front here, and it's got a little bit of information, 520 lumens, Cree XBL HI LED. You get a extra O-ring, you get a micro USB cable, and you get the weapon light itself. On the back you've got more information here, telling you about its 2 brightness levels, the battery it uses, things like that. The manual that it comes with here is pretty decent. No problems I found with it. And let's take a look at the light here while it's on the pistol, and then I'll take it apart. So the light here is made from anodized aluminum and is generally rectangular in shape, but it's been lightened where possible here. We've got a divot out of the side here. It's kind of a nice milled area, and at the bottom it's kind of scalloped, as you can see. Starting at the head of the light, we can see its reflector features a double anti-reflective coated glass. The reflector itself is smooth, and the LED is nicely centered there in the middle. The head's pretty small here. It's got some light scallops for style and to provide a little bit extra grip. And it's the head of this light that the cap comes off to allow you to change the battery. We can see it's got one spring on this side. We can see it's got a double wall construction in there. And we can see another spring deep down in there. While I've got this apart, this is the battery the light comes with. It's a Jetbeam JR160, 16340 size, 700 milliamp hours. We saw this in the Jetbeam light that I tested earlier in the year. We can see it's micro USB rechargeable here on the side, and you've got 2 LEDs, red and green, for when it's charged or charging. Something that is kind of nice on here, it does have a battery indicator to tell you which direction it goes. For some reason, I found myself wanting to go plus side up often when it's really plus side down. And that battery compartment isn't large enough for a larger size cell like an 18350, which is unfortunate. On the bottom of the light here is an electronic switch. This is used for lockout. It sits pretty flat. You can see there it doesn't stick up or anything, so it stays out of the way, which is good. I don't think it'll be pressed accidentally. It's just a little bit of an odd design, something not a lot of other weapon lights have. Personally, I would prefer that they leave that off and just allow the light to disconnect like that with just a little bit of a twist of the head. You don't need any more lockout other than just a little bit of twist. The switches here are mounted on this rubberized plastic portion that's the back portion of the light. Under the right lighting conditions, it's almost 3 different colors. Mine is between the head, the body, and the plastic bit here. I'm kind of used to the plastic being a different color, but the 2 anodizing, I'm not. It looks like you've got these 2 buttons here, and you'd think you could press these just like this to maybe actuate it, but it doesn't actually work that way. You've got to press up here on the bar. This doesn't really work. You've got to get up and basically press on that bar. That's right where the button is. The mount here is a little bit interesting. We've got 4 scallops that this screw goes across, and this allows this mount piece here to slide backwards and forwards. As I had it mounted before on my Glock 19, it fit just fine. It also fits on a Picatinny rail just fine. The piece here is both Glock and Pic size. Not a lot of surface area there. It is a high impact like nylon plastic. We've got a screw here that for some reason is in silver. I really think this should be in black and hide a little bit better. That you just manually loosen or screw to make it larger or smaller. This side does come off, which kind of is a negative to me. And this does fit a coin to tighten it down. You get spoiled by Olight's quick detach system here that I've got on a lot of lights, where it's a completely toolless design. The Jetbeam just doesn't do that. So length is 65 millimeters, width is 29, height is 36, and weight with the battery is 92.6 grams. While similar to other Olights like the PL Mini here, that is kind of what I tested it against mostly, we can see it's a much taller light, about the same length, maybe just a little bit longer. And we can see that it reflector size is huge between the two. The Jetbeam's a little bit brighter than the Olight, about 520 lumens to 400. The Jetbeam T2 probably compares more closely to like the Streamlight TLR7, but I don't have one here to compare it with. Anyways, on a medium size, it's a medium-sized light, but it operates more like a full-sized one. Like I said, it fits fine on my Glock 19 and 22, but even with that adjustable mount, it doesn't fit on my Smith & Wesson Shield with the rail attachment, which is kind of what I expected. So the light here is using that Cree XPL HI LED in cool white. The reflector is decently deep and smooth, so it does have a pretty good amount of throw. It's rated for 120 meters of throw, and I found that to be pretty accurate, and you'll see that on my night test here. Beam profile is fairly hot in the center with a good amount of light spill, and it's a good profile for a pistol light. Run times on this light were a little bit disappointing, or at least a little bit interesting on high. On high, it's good for 520 lumens, and the runtime is 3 to 4 minutes before it steps down over the next 7 minutes to 70% relative output. This declines slow, so you don't really notice the dip, but the next 10 minutes is pretty stable before the light flashes a bit to let you know that it's starting to run out of power. The strange thing then was it stepped up a decent amount before low voltage protection kicks in on the battery. And the battery didn't want to give me a voltage without being charged a little bit first. Low mode is pretty good too at 160 lumens. The runtime's quite long at 105 minutes. And what's odd about this graph is you can see when it's actually increases, instead of stepping down like most lights do, it increases over the first 50 minutes or so before stepping down and then slowly increasing again. Today we are looking at the Jetbeam T2. This is running a Cree XPL HI LED. This is in cool white, and this is in high mode here. It's producing 520 lumens. We can see it throws pretty well, easily hits neighbors into the fence, hits my property here pretty nicely. Colors look pretty good for being cool white. Doesn't really go much beyond the neighbor's fence, but for being a pistol light, that's kind of what you'd expect. If I pan over to the side here, you can see it's got a decent spill that kind of transitions, not too bad. And then here is low mode, and this is 160 lumens, and to me this feels like more than 160, just that difference between the 160 and 520. And excuse the neighbor's pissed off dog that I'm making angry here. But we can see 160 throws pretty well. You just get a lot less spill in general. There it is. So not too bad. On the left here, I've got the Jetbeam T2 in high, 520 lumens. And on the right here, I've got the Olight PL Mini. And this is running 400 lumens. The Olight has a different shaped lens to it. It's a little bit broader hot spot. It's not quite as bright. And you can see the spill's kind of similar. I like the way this looks. Personally, it kind of gives you a bit bigger beam, but the Jetbeam here is more of a hot spot focus. So it's kind of whatever your preference is. Both do the job. This is probably a little bit better because it gives you a little distance, the Jetbeam does. But it is a bigger light as well. So here is the Jetbeam T2, and here is the Olight PL Mini. Jetbeam versus Olight. So the UI on this light is pretty simple. Like I mentioned before, you've got the left and right buttons, and they both do the same thing. And these buttons look a lot longer than they really are. You've really got to have your finger over the bar, as I mentioned before. So if you just press, the light turns on. If you long press, you get momentary. Jetbeam calls this tactical mode, and to access strobe, you double click one or the other button. Those are your most used features. The light does have two modes, 520 lumens or 120. And to switch between the two, it says to hit both at the same time. And I didn't really find that worked well. What worked best for me is to hit one and then the other and hold, and then the light will step down. And you do the same thing to reverse that. So one and then the other, and we can see it stepped back up. So as I mentioned before, the light does have a button on the bottom, and this is for lockout. And to make this work, you just long press on here for about 3 seconds, and then the light slow flashes to let you know that it's locked. Now I can hit the side buttons and nothing happens. To unlock, you press and hold again for about 3 seconds. The light will flash 2 times and it's unlocked. Again, to me that's kind of a useless feature since you can just rotate the head just a little bit of the light and it doesn't work. To me that's a lot faster, and mechanical lockout's always my preference. So recharging, as I mentioned, is accomplished with that included Jetbeam 700 milliamp 16340 battery via the USB port on its side. This is the same battery so we saw on the Jetbeam RRT01 review I did earlier this year. That's a great light. If you've not seen my review of it, I still am carrying it probably once or twice a week. It has the battery has 2 LED indicators on top. Red is when charging, green is when charged. Charging speed was pretty conservative at 0.4 amps, meaning a low battery to full took, full being 4.17 volts, took 2 hours and 5 minutes. My conclusion is the Jetbeam T2 is Jetbeam's first pistol light that I can find that's pretty good for a first go at it. For me, the output should be a bit more smooth and regulated, with emphasis on that high output without step down. The amount of time that it does just isn't great. The buttons on the side should be a little bit longer and easier to press. I feel like you've got to be just right on these to make them work, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't find the switch on the bottom to be very useful since you can mechanically lock out the light just by turning the head so easily. That's a lot quicker. That said, I really like the shapes here. I like that the bottom is kind of bezel, the bottom's kind of been routed out, and you've got this nice little scalloped side edge. Deep reflector and the Cree XPL work pretty well here to give you a pretty decent throw. And it's got a good beam pattern for a pistol light. Overall, this is a good first design with room for improvement in the future, I think. Make sure you check the description for a link on where you can pick up this on Jetbeam's website and any other retailer. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below of the Jetbeam T2 or any of the other lights I've reviewed. If you've got any questions, let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, guys, thanks for liking these videos and subscribing to the channel as they help me continue to bring videos like this to you.